today's sermon is called What's Your Story, or reflection is called What's Your Story. It's actually the first of a three-parter that will be rolled out over the coming weeks and months about stories and storytelling. And it's sort of inspired by a program that we as a congregation are inviting in, which is called Roots to Reckon. You may have heard Bry guest preach about this over the summer. Is Bry's last name Brennan? The same as Kath? Okay, so Bry Brennan, Kath's kid. So Bry's going to be bringing Roots to Reckon with us. It's a program that helps us, through storytelling, investigate who we are, what our histories are, what our corporate history is here in this place, on this land, and try to develop relationship and a spiritual connection with place via accountable relationship and healing of our own stories and the story of this land and how those things all intersect. So there'll be a handful of people who take the initial course, and then they will then offer that course to small groups. And this series is a means, I hope, of preparing us to enter into that kind of work. So today I want to explore how story does this repair and connection work, and then spend a moment reflecting on the personal elements of our story. And as I think about, like, what's your story? What's your story? I think the best prompt is, who are you? And then that prompt is kind of filled in by the next question, which is, how did you come to be here? Those two questions, I think, naturally will prompt you to start telling stories. But maybe first we should ask, why is story so important? I mean, I talk about it a lot. Hopefully you can tell me why by this point, but maybe not. Stories condition us. Stories condition our response to events. And events are just stacked stories. So this is extremely important. It's always important, but it's even more so in pivotal times. And we are currently living in pivotal times. What you do now in response to state violence and active authoritarianism in our country and the genocide perpetuated by one of our vassal states in Gaza against humans in Palestine. Or even if you aren't able to see those things, all of that, your response, whether you could see them or not, are determined by the story that you tell about who you are. How did you come to be here? Stories organize events into something coherent and consistent that wind up feeling like a self. The pioneering psychologist and thinker Oliver Sachs observed that, quote, we have, each of us, a life story, an inner narrative whose continuity, whose sense is our lives. It might be said that each of us constructs and lives a narrative, and that this narrative is us, our identities, end quote. So stories are the narrative lens through which we make sense of the world. Stories are our narrative lens through which we make sense of the world. Now, this is a double-edged sword, because the self can feel really safe, like it's all we really know, even if it's unhealthy or harmful. Coherence and consistency are neutral states. They're powerful, but they're neutral. And this is why self-reflection becomes absolutely critical. who am I, ought to be a question that we ask ourselves all the time. Now, reflection helps us to interpret events and our response to those events. Is our sense of ourself true? Is it accurate? It's possible to lie to yourself, after all. You're always running a story. It just may not be the one that you think you're running. The story you're actually running is the one that truly conditions your response. So it is a really good idea to get clear about it and make adjustments where necessary. So stories are our lens of meaning. What happens in our lives is filtered through that lens. So to change your life, change your lens. And self-reflection helps us to know if a lens change is in order. Self-reflection is like an optometrist appointment, I suppose. We may also ask, what's outside of our frame? What's left out? What can't you see? What do you fixate on? What we focus on and what we leave out, that's our bias. If we are unaware of our biases, we are giving away our agency and letting our stories run us rather than authoring our own narratives, our own lenses of meaning making. So to reflect on our stories, our biases, and take authority in our lives, it maybe would help, or maybe it would just be fun, maybe just be fun for me, to dissect this anthropogenic narrative that makes us who we are. So today we get PowerPoints. Sorry. As I see it, there are 3 levels of story. You can see them up there. There's the personal, the ancestral, and the cosmo-ecological. Cosmo here meaning like Greek as in cosmos, world. Sure, progressively. They're progressive lenses. So each level of story operates as an informed by also what I'm calling zones of culture. So the ancestral operates in zones of culture. The personal operates in zones of culture. Let's go to slide 2. They're all interrelated and each interacts with each, right? There's the immediate zone of culture, which encompasses the individual and friends, your immediate life. And then there's the local, which is like this, your church or your city. Now, an example of a local story operating in your personal life is how our liturgical calendar is a lens and frame for you to use. We gather in September and we'll soon move to the front porch of the underworld with our All Souls ceremony in a few weeks, and then we will descend and spend some months in the underworld where we will dream what it is to be until we finally emerge and bring those dreams to life in the spring. Right? So we run this ceremonially, we run this religiously. You are invited to interact through that lens with your personal life. The third level is the paradigm level, or like a worldview, and this is our religion writ large, or our cultural concept, i.e. the West or our nation. They all have impacts on us. The 3 levels of story and the 3 levels of culture all interact. Let's go to the next one, please. One more advanced. Sorry, I skipped that one. Yeah, see, they all interact. Isn't that beautiful? I did that, actually. Like, that's as good as I get, okay? Actually, my daughter helped me do that, so this is not what they trained us for. But I like it because it shows, go to the next slide, please. You're there. That's you, right? Next slide. And you're messy. That's incredibly messy, right? But this is, in fact, we're complex people. So this is, in fact, how we construe ourselves. This is the narrative lenses that we are working with, like all the time. Now, it's usually not conscious. It's usually subconscious. But you can take control, so to speak, of your narrative, right? So next slide, please. To do that, we're going to simplify. Today, we're just going to think about the personal for a little bit. So your personal narrative runs through your immediate, local, and paradigmatic cultures. And the questions here are, what's your immediate storyscape? What's your family storyscape? What's your local storyscape? What's your church storyscape? What's your paradigm's storyscape? What is the paradigm informing you to be or not to be? So remember, a story, a narrative about yourself, your narrative story is a lens through which you understand the world, and that predisposes you to react in certain ways to given situations. You are a character in that story. The story is a field in which your character, becomes known. So what stories are you running? In what field are you figuring yourself out? Do they reasonably match reality? What are your personal biases at each of those levels? Is your narrative fulfilling? Is it compelling? Is it correct? So, word to the wise. It's good to make learning a fundamental feature of your story. Because what has been a part of your story, think back on your story. How did you get here? What has been a part of your story, that story that you're telling yourself, will be a part of your story in the future. Unless you are a learner. If learning is built into your story, I did this, but then I learned from it, I did this, and then I learned from it, that predisposes you to be a learner in the future. So if you want to change your story, a good place to start is to start inserting learning into those parts of your past. What did you learn? Do you want to change your story or simply become more the author of your own life? The work of doing so necessarily will be interrelated with the ancestral and the cosmo-ecological levels, but you can change your story by reframing. From victim to survivor. From oppressed to revolutionary. From oppressor to liberator. Now, it's important to note that while you can change your lens, change your narrative, and thereby change your response to events, your story and action, your story that you tell about yourself and the action that you do must match. Or else you haven't actually rewritten your story, and your life will be dissonant and filled with missed opportunities and harm doing. After all, the perpetuators of genocide think that they're the heroes. Remember, the story you are running conditions your responses. So it is really good to get clear about it. Do self-reflection. Do self-reflection. Identify your biases. Be careful of your sources. Extricate yourself from automatic reactivity and take authority for your own story. And change it if you need to. The world needs you right now. We need you. We need each other. There is so much terror, so much possibility. This is your moment, our moment, if our story is what it needs to be. Is it? Who are you? How did you get here? Please rise in body or spirit.